Trudeau's most fearsome foe, truth, is back, and it crushed him today in the House of Commons.
Speaker, Canadians need our bold action to keep moving forward on the problem of housing affordability.
The Liberal government's bold action is the last thing we need because it's a bold action towards a dark and dangerous and depressing abyss where no one can afford homes and no one can afford to live. For that matter, no one can afford to die.
Unlike the Conservative leader, we know that the federal government plays an essential role in leadership in housing.
A leadership that is, again, trending towards destruction. Anytime government involves itself in the market, a housing market, for example, that market is then distorted and people suffer because of it. The government doesn't seek to generate profit, it seeks to guarantee its political survivability, and that often means at the expense of common Canadians.
On this side, we're making historic investments in housing. We're linking public transit dollars to housing density, and we're working with cities to modernize and accelerate the way we build homes.
The federal government is trespassing beyond their domains. They are moving into cities, as Trudeau mentions, which is not where they're supposed to be. It's an egregious violation of the proper boundaries of the federal government, and the investments they're making are not good ones. The investments they're making are antichrist and they're socialist.
While the Conservative leader focuses on clickbaits and views, we're focused on building homes for Canadians.
The Honourable Leader.
Then they're doing a bad job of it. They must have poor focus because they're failing miserably in their task.
Of the official opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's funny. He released a video the very same day of him in a starter home pretending that he was a real estate agent. But in reality, everyone laughed because they know that he's doubled the housing cost.
Right.
He's delivered an economy where we have the fewest homes per capita of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. And Toronto is now the worst housing bubble in the world after 8 years of this prime minister. So that's why I'm putting partisanship aside and offering the Prime Minister and the Liberal caucus a private screening of my documentary. Will the Prime Minister put his ego aside and join with me personally to take in this documentary, Housing Hell, How We Got In and How We'll Get Out of It?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The reality, Mr. Speaker, is the Conservative leader continues to call for the federal government to get out of the business of housing.
That's true. Notice how all of this for Trudeau is scripted. The entire thing is theater. He can't compose a rational, sensical thought on his own.
We will not repeat the same mistakes he made when he was housing minister under Stephen Harper.
Right.
The Conservative leader's present plan won't build enough homes fast enough, doesn't reach enough cities, and creates unnecessary red tape. He'd also defund affordable housing projects and tax affordable rental construction even more.
Whenever we hear the word affordable housing project or affordable renting unit and so on, the first thing that should be insinuated in our minds is the socialist Soviet 1973 apartment block. You know, those beautiful, individual, unique, luxurious, utopian apartments in the Soviet Union in the 70s. Not at all boring, not at all decrepit, not at all crumbling, not at all bland and banal. No, that's the first thing we should think of. That's what comes to our mind when we hear the word affordable housing. Do we want to solve the housing crisis? It's simple. One, stop importing hundreds of thousands of immigrants into the country every single year. Two, remove government from the markets, from the money markets, from the interest rate markets, from the housing markets, and so on, and let the free market work. Then, after a period of protracted pain, unfortunately, the housing market would return to normal instead of this overweight, massive bubble we're in right now.
While the Conservative leader focuses on clickbait and views, we're going to focus on building Canadians more homes.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the official opposition.
Speaker, he did try to make a video. It was a total failure. His videos don't get clicks and his houses don't have bricks. After 8 years, that's why housing costs have doubled. He shouldn't have to read his entire answer. I'm offering to inform him. If he would just take 15 minutes away from his photo ops, he can watch my brilliant documentary on X or YouTube with a common sense plan to require cities permit 15% more homes, give them bonuses if they exceed the target, require transit around every new federally funded, require housing around every federally funded transit station, and sell off 6,000 buildings. This is common sense. Let's bring it home.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader's plan is to pick fights with municipalities, to create more red tape, and to withdraw funding for affordable housing and affordable apartments. That's not a plan to build more housing, but he has demonstrated that he's extremely satisfied with his ability to spread misinformation and disinformation online, which, yes, I will admit, he's very good at.
Oh, you know, when Trudeau talks about misinformation and disinformation, he has absolutely nothing to reinforce his already pitiful arguments. What's he going to say? All we have to do is look at reality to see the true picture of the devastation that Justin Trudeau is causing. Is it cheaper now to buy a home than it was 10 years ago? Is the market more normal than it was 10 years ago? Are people living with a higher quality of life, easier than they were 8 or 10 years ago? So Trudeau can say whatever he wants. He can talk about whatever he wishes. He can call Poilievre or Bernier or whatever other politician he hates, any name under the sun. He can say they're promoting misinformation, disinformation. They're promoting this, that, and the other thing, which simply isn't true. But when we look at the actual facts, when we look at reality itself, unlike the Liberals who refuse to do so, we see the truth. And the truth is Canada is in a devastating position. We're in a economically perilous position. And the first step, one of the most critical steps we have to take to drag ourselves out of it is vote out the Liberal government from their position of power.